receive loans and grants and donations from other people. Mr. Speaker, this is a very progressive piece of legislation which we should all support, because sports is a very, very important industry globally, and sports now is one of the highest paying industry in the world. You have seen how much money the sports people earn. For example, Mr. Speaker, in football, you've heard people talking about billions of dollars to move a player from one club to another. This, if it happens in a large scale, affecting many of our youth, then that would be one of the ways of actually raising money for this country. And we know countries which have developed largely because of investment in sports. So this is a very welcome amendment, and as he rightly said, many counties do not have a sports fund. I think it's only my county, Vihiga County, that has a sports fund, but which is largely underfunded. They give them less than 10 million shillings a year, Mr. Speaker. What can that do? Can do very little work. So if we are going to ensure that counties take at least 1% of their revenue to this fund, I think we'll begin to see improvement. But I want to suggest to my good friend Sifuna to maybe consider amending this bill or on this section that deals with how the fund will be funded, to include monies from the national government through shareable revenue. And Mr. Speaker, in my communication, I'll be able to demonstrate why this is possible, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about the sports fund, I did quite a lot of research around this area. When I was in the National Assembly, I came up with this idea of having sports academies in every constituency in Kenya, 290 constituencies. And I came up with a motion that was passed by the House. And during that process of research, I came across a lot of information which I would like to share with the members today. Mr. Speaker, the idea of a sports fund, if you go back to history, was one of those proposals that emanated from during the Grand Coalition government, which remains as the only government that many Kenyans feel worked for them in the history of this country. The Grand Coalition had Vision 2030, which had several pillars, and one of the pillars was the social pillar. And in this social pillar, they talked about youth and sports. Mr. Speaker, the Kibaki regime came up with the Sports Act. And in the Sports Act, they came up with a raft of issues. One, which was having a National Academy of Sports and having sports academies in all counties. Mr. Speaker, they went ahead and came up with a funding mechanism. And one of the funding mechanisms was to have a national sports fund which was going to receive its funding from lotteries, betting, and other sources. And this act of parliament, that is the Sports Act 2013, was passed in February 2013, just a few months before Kibaki left power. And the betting companies were being deducted money. It went into this fund. when the new regime of Uhuru Kenyatta came to power, they found idle money. That time it was around 10 billion shillings. And they started salvating at this money. Instead of investing this money in sports, Uhuru decided, his government decided to repeal the Sports Act by removing the entire chapter on the National Sports Fund. He removed the entire chapter in the National Sports Fund and he created something else called the Sports Art and Social Development Fund through a regulation, through public finance regulation. And Mr. Speaker, you will be shocked to hear how the government of Uhuru proposed to allocate this money. In the regulations, that is the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund regulation, they propose that 60% of the money will go to universal health care. Money that is meant for sports, Mr. Speaker. They further proposed that 20% will go to promotion and development of art. They further proposed that 5% will go to strategic intervention, whose expenditure will be subject to approval by the cabinet, not even parliament. And strangely and annoyingly, they propose that only 5% of that money will go to promotion and development of sports. Mr. Speaker, if there is a fund that this House must investigate, it is this fund. Because even when they moved to the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund, the National Sports Fund was left hanging, and they operated for a few months. So we had now two funds, the Social, Arts and Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund, and then we had the National Sports Fund. Mr. Speaker, the idea behind this fund, the initial idea by the Kibaki government, was to promote sports, to promote our young people. But when Uhuru saw free money, he decided that this money should go to universal health care. Mr. Speaker, now that we have SHA and SHIV, SHIV and SHA, why do we need to continue taking 60% of this money to universal health care? This money should be taken back to sports. Mr. Speaker, if this money was put in the sports, we will be having at least 10 international stadia in this country because of the huge amount of money that has come in here. Mr. Speaker, we will be having academies across the country. Mr. Speaker, as I said, I am the one who originated the Sports Academy motion in the National Assembly. And I'm happy the national government has picked it up. But Mr. Speaker, they have been talking about this for the last 7 years. And even in my county, they came to a place called Gisambai Ward and set up, launched with a lot of pomp, the Joe Kadenge Sports Academy. Mr. Speaker, 2 years after that launch, nothing is happening there. And yet this fund has money, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have serious clubs in this country, Gor Mahia, AFC, and the other clubs which are in the Premier League. They are struggling. And yet we have the money that comes in here, going to some strange things like promotion of arts, which we never see, going into universal health care. Mr. Speaker, I would propose to the Honorable Sifuna that this money that is coming into this fund, this money should also be shared with counties. Because, Mr. Speaker, sports is a shared function between the national government and the county government. Because the county government deals with sports activities and facilities, And the national government deals with the promotion of sports. So if that is the case, and they are receiving money through taxation in this fund, can that money also go to support our counties in terms of sports, rather than supporting universal health care, and yet our people are still also being taxed on social health insurance fund. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this bill is very timely, and it is a bill that we should all support so that we can grow sports in our counties, so that we can keep our youth very busy, so that we can also make sports an important economic activity for this country. Mr. Speaker, other countries which are progressing in sports have this fund, and they are using that money to develop sports, to develop sports academies, to develop sports stadiums. But in Kenya, when we saw money, good money in this fund, we decided to divert it to other things that are not relevant to sports, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would say that I would encourage the members to fully support this bill, and also encourage the sports committee to move in with speed and do an inquiry around this fund. What does it do? How many associations have benefited? How many sportsmen have benefited? How many groups have benefited from this kind of thing, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, if we do this, we'll be saving this country, and we'll be promoting the legacy of the late President Mwai Kibaki, who remains as the only president who worked for this country, Mr. Speaker, who had a vision for this country, by even coming up with a fund like this, which the successive leadership has mutilated the good vision that he had to promote sports in this country by coming up with this kind of legislation, and by ensuring that sports remained a key social pillar under the Vision 2030. Mr. Speaker, for those remarks, I want to support and encourage other members to also support this very progressive proposal to amend the Sports Act, and also encourage that maybe we should consider returning back the provisions for this fund back to the Sports Act, where it was, and not to a regulation which they keep on changing. And Mr. Speaker, even that regulation requires the Committee of Delegated Legislation to look at it, because you cannot have a regulation on sports that is domiciled in Treasury and not the Ministry of Sports. The administrator of the fund is the PS Treasury. So what does the PS for sports do, Mr. Speaker? The one who is supposed to be managing sports, when the money that is supposed to be financing sports is held elsewhere in Treasury. So I think there is a lot of gaps in those regulations, and I think the delegated legislation will do us a favor to conduct an inquiry around this, as the Sports Committee also does an inquiry to determine how this fund is run, how this fund is administered, and how beneficiaries of this fund have benefited and how much. Mr. Speaker, I support. Sorry, I second.
Thank you, Senator. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Sports Amendments Bill, Senate Bills number 33 of 2024, be now read a second time.